Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the man of the West, Alan. I'm also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's wrap up this week's episodes with Silmarillion Saturday. Now, Saturdays are our chance to revisit the history and legends of the Elder Days. Sometimes we read from the Silmarillion, sometimes unfinished tales. I'm sure we'll be reading from History of Middle-earth at some point. Now, last week we read from Aule, specifically the part about the three themes, so that we could get to shall prove but mine instrument, since I use that SPBIMI acronym pretty frequently. Today, though, we're going to move into the Quenta Silmarillion proper. It is told that in their beginning, the dwarves were made by Aule in the darkness of Middle-earth. For so greatly did Aule desire the coming of the children, to have learners to whom he could teach his lore and his crafts, that he was unwilling to await the fulfillment of the designs of Ilúvatar. And Aule made the dwarves even as they still are, because the forms of the children who were to come were unclear to his mind, and because the power of Melkor was yet over the earth, and he wished therefore that they should be strong and unyielding. But fearing that the other Valar might blame his work, he wrought in secret, and he made first the 7 fathers of the dwarves in a hall under the mountains in Middle-earth. Now, Ilúvatar knew what was done, and in the very hour that Aule's work was complete, and he was pleased, and began to instruct the dwarves in the speech that he had devised for them, Ilúvatar spoke to him. And Aule heard his voice and was silent. And the voice of Ilúvatar said to him, "Why hast thou done this? Why dost thou attempt a thing which thou knowest is beyond thy power and thy authority? For thou hast from me as a gift thy own being only, and no more, and therefore the creatures of thy hand and mind can live only by that being, moving when thou thinkest to move them, and if thy thought be elsewhere, standing idle. Is that thy desire?" Then Aule answered, "I did not desire such lordship. I desired things other than I am, to love and to teach them, so that they too might perceive the beauty of Ea, which thou hast caused to be. For it seemed to me that there is great room in Arda for many things that might rejoice in it. Yet it is for the most part empty still and dumb. And in my impatience I have fallen into folly. Yet the making of things is in my heart from my own making by thee. And the child of little understanding that makes a play of the deeds of his father may do so without thought of mockery, but because he is the son of his father. But what shall I do now, so that thou be not angry with me forever? As a child to his father I offer to thee these things, the work of the hands which thou hast made. Do with them what thou wilt. But should I not rather destroy the work of my presumption?" Then Aule took up a great hammer to smite the dwarves, and he wept. But Ilúvatar had compassion upon Aule and his desire because of his humility. And the dwarves shrank from the hammer and were afraid, and they bowed down their heads and begged for mercy. And the voice of Ilúvatar said to Aule, "Thy offer I accepted even as it was made. Dost thou not see that these things have now a life of their own, and speak with their own voices? Else they would not have flinched from thy blow, nor from any command of thy will." Then Aule cast down his hammer and was glad, and he gave thanks to Ilúvatar, saying, "May Eru bless my work and amend it." But Ilúvatar spoke again and said, "Even as I gave being to the thoughts of the Ainur at the beginning of the world, so now I have taken up thy desire and given to it a place therein. But in no other way will I amend thy handiwork. And as thou hast made it, so shall it be. But I will not suffer this, that these should come before the firstborn of my design, nor that thy impatience should be rewarded. They shall sleep now in the darkness under stone, and shall not come forth until the firstborn have awakened upon earth. And until that time thou and they shall wait, though long it seem. But when the time comes, I will awaken them, and they shall be to thee as children. And often strife shall arise between thine and mine, the children of my adoption and the children of my choice." Then Aule took the 7 fathers of the dwarves and laid them to rest in far sundered places. And he returned to Valinor and waited while the long years lengthened. Since they were to come in the days of the power of Melkor, Aule made the dwarves strong to endure. Therefore, they are stone hard, stubborn, fast in friendship and in enmity, and they suffer toil and hunger and hurt of body more heartily than all other speaking peoples. And they live long, far beyond the span of men, yet not forever. Aforetime it was held among the elves in Middle-earth that dying, the dwarves return to the earth and the stone of which they were made. Yet that is not their own belief, for they say that Aule the Maker, whom they call Mahal, cares for them and gathers them to Mandos in halls set apart, and that he declared to their fathers of old that Ilúvatar will hallow them and give them a place among the children in the end. Then their part shall be to serve Aule and to aid him in the remaking of Arda after the last battle. They say also that the 7 fathers of the dwarves return to live again in their own kin, and to bear once more their ancient names, of whom Durin was the most renowned in after ages, father of that kindred most friendly to the elves, whose mansions were at Khazad-dûm. Man, I love this chapter so very much. There's a bit of similarity between Aule and Melkor in terms of this desire to create, but the differences are so clear, and they tell us why one is deeply wrong and the other is forgiven. Aule seems to be impatient, just like Melkor, right? We read of Melkor, I think just the last episode, that desire grew hot within him to bring into being things of his own. Things of his own. That's dominion, ownership, lordship. Aule wanted learners, creatures to love, and who would value Eru's creation. That's one difference. But the big one is how they each react to being confronted by the big guy. Melkor was filled with shame, of which came secret anger. But Aule was different. He explained his motives, he acknowledged his guilt, and he offered to destroy his work. Ilúvatar then showed him mercy, not because Aule had a better reason for his rebellion, but, the text says, because of his humility. Man, there is so much more to discuss here, and I think we will next week. For now, though, that's it for Silmarillion Saturday. Come back for more of the Elder Days every Saturday as we open up the pages of Middle-earth history. And if there is a first or second age story that you want to hear me read and discuss, please let me know by emailing barlaman@theprancingponypodcast.com. And if these few minutes leave you wanting more Tolkien content, be sure to check out the Prancing Pony Podcast, where we've spent 7 years so far walking through the books, including the first 50 or so episodes just on the Silmarillion. Speaking of the PPP, we are off tomorrow for the 4th of July holiday. Apologies to our former overlords in England, and we'll return the following week as Sean Gunner and I begin the last debate. Finally, join me again next Monday as we start another week of Today's Tolkien Times with Mailbag Monday. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, follow or subscribe on your podcast apps to make sure each episode gets downloaded to your device, and follow @Tolkien Times on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.